So good morning, Ivy Glass.
Hello.
And good morning, everyone watching. Hillary Sepulveda Brown here, spiritual practitioner and author with the Everyday Goddess Revolution. And I'm here this morning having my lovely goddess tea with the wonderful Ivy Glass, yoga teacher and author extraordinaire, about worth.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here and have this conversation and be a part of this collective experience and project.
I love it, right? I mean, know your worth, goddess. How much more powerful could it be than having a title of Know Your Worth, Goddess?
It's like stepping into that power, into that light, into that worth, right there with that power. And knowing it, we're doing that collectively, it's even stronger, which is just beautiful. And that connectiveness that we need right now is in perfection with this project.
Absolutely, 100%, Ivy. I completely agree. And when you think about this book, what drove you, for you personally, your worth story to write inside of this book and to collaborate and Know Your Worth, Goddess?
When I had the opportunity, the invitation to be a part of it, it was part of my process. It was the invitation to step up into my worth as I was and still am in the process of up leveling in that. And it was about saying yes instead of saying no. I am worthy of writing a book. I am worthy of being in this project. I am worthy of being in this, goddess collective. Like, let's do this. And really embodying that, stepping in and going for it. And just noticing what was going on in my own life, how when when the project came up, it was a mirror of what was already happening. And I wanted to push that even further and share my experience.
I absolutely love that. I love how you just said you're still in it and it was an opportunity for you to step into your worth. I mean, how powerful are you, Ivy? So many people are given opportunity and experience imposter syndrome because they're not in tune, let's say, with that worth within their inner self. So how big of you, hats off to you for recognizing that you are worthy, and what an amazing story you have behind the collaboration in this book.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's funny, I've always enjoyed writing as a child, and I've always been good at writing. And I just put it in the back of my mind of ever writing a book or doing this in my adult life. It was something as part of my childhood. And sometimes these opportunities are things that we may have always wanted to do, but we don't know it, like it's dormant. And then
Yeah.
there's this sign that's like, oh, wait a minute, we're still alive. We're just buried down here. Like, wake up. I want to come out and express that. So I feel like this is also that opportunity, seeing those signs and following them.
Amazing, amazing. I love that. And I know that you're a mom as well and a wife. And around your personal relationships and self-worth, how have you, what is the greatest tool that you've had that you hope to pass on to your children in regards to your own self-worth?
I think the biggest thing, I mean, right now I'm working mostly with my daughter is 6.5, my son is 1.5. When I see my daughter struggling to speak how she feels and speak her own truth, I encourage her to do that. But the biggest thing I can do is also be an example of that and do that for myself, even if it's hard, because you don't always want to show your children the struggles that you might go through, but it's real. And so it's better to have that real conversation and be real than to sweep it under the rug.
I've
So
got chills.
yeah, because I feel that and I see that. So, I have to step into my light and my truth. And I've struggled. I've had my ups and downs in my marriage, and I've had, struggles of being a parent. Like, who's in charge here, my children or me? So it's that ultimate relationship and being me. I'm not always the perfect mom, or I might think something's important that might not be for my daughter, or my daughter thinks something's important. So it's like me learning to see her worth, right? And so she can see my worth. So that's been development as we're, as she's getting older.
It's so true. You brought up that reflection that they see, right? We reflect our actions to them, and the push and pull with our within, we were talking about the struggle and the push and pull with our own self-worth of feeling worthy and then being unsure about your worth. Do you have any tools when you're in the moment? What is it that you use that you want your readers to know within that push and pull moment of your own self-worth?
For me, it's just getting really, really present as a yogi. It's coming into the breath, coming into the body, noticing where my feet are, noticing where my hands are, noticing what's around me. And if it's overwhelming for me, and if I have the space, I will stop and drop and do yoga, because that's my thing. That's how I get myself out of my head. Maybe it might be like turning on some music and just moving my body. But really trying to find the inner essence, the inner energy, because a lot of it's just loops in the brain. And a lot of it's just fear. It's fear that's going on. And so when we can really just come back to our true essence, it's where we find our worth and we find our value.
Love it. I love that. And, we know each other in society. So I know you're a yoga teacher. Why don't you just tell everybody a little bit about yourself? We
Okay.
didn't do a little introduction about who is Ivy Glass.
Sure. So I'm a yoga teacher. I've been practicing yoga for over 20 years. And I started practicing yoga to overcome depression and anxiety. So the way that I think of yoga is I do it for my mental health, and the byproduct is a healthy physical body. And it helped me get off antidepressants. And so now I teach to guide other people to find their inner light, and so they can find tools to navigate what's coming up in their lives, and to have this ultimate balance that you can do for the rest of your life. So, and it's been really powerful, and I love guiding and working with my students. It's been a wonderful process.
That's so beautiful, Ivy. And within that lifetime, I as well am a yoga teacher. Within that lifetime of teaching yoga, and around worth and worthiness, not just self-worth, because we know that, right, all worthiness, everything we deem worthy comes from our own self-worth. How do you bring in and bridge, or union, like the word yoga means? How do we yoke our worth and yoga together? How does that work?
I think it's, like I always say with yoga, it's a practice, not a perfect. So I feel like it's just really letting it be a practice, letting yourself be in the process and noticing without judgment. So that observation of, there's days when you feel good and there's days when you feel pretty or ugly. I think it's the same thing with worth. It can fluctuate. It can go up and down. So really, just like I am right now in that process of embodying and stepping up, what is my worth? I actually wasn't really even thinking about it much until recently, like, oh, my worth. Wow. My value, my time, it's all of those things. So yeah, I think embodying the process, and being on the path is all you really can do in terms of getting in the Zen moment of it, rather than the results. Because we get fixated on the result, then it sometimes becomes an expectation. So yeah, really finding that process.
I love that. It's for practice and not a perfect. I love that so much.
Yeah.
I love to sit. I know for myself, discovering my self-worth had to do with how I spoke to myself, and really understanding that we teach others our worth, right? By recognizing our own value. And I
Hmm.
love that you're bringing that into your children as well, especially with your daughter being 6.5, and teaching her
Hmm.
to have her own voice. If there was
Hmm.
one message you would want to leave her with, just the last thing that you could leave her with around her own self-worth, do you have that? Have you ever thought of, I have 5 kids, right? So I think about this a lot. What's the legacy I want them to hear in their head of me saying, right, around their own self-worth and living out their life's purpose? Do you have something like that as well?
I mean, I feel for her that I want her to speak her truth and live her expression, even if it scares her. Like when I see her sometimes afraid to ask for what she wants or what she needs or her opinion, like I know she's opinionated. I want her to feel safe to express her opinion and her truth and whatever message that she has in this world, and to feel grounded and secure in that, especially as a woman coming up in this world right now, young girl. Like I don't know who she's going to be, but I know her strength, and I don't want her to lose that. So if I
Yes.
can guide her as a young girl now, hopefully she can keep harnessing it.
I love that. I love how you say that, and knowing to speak your truth. And within speaking our truth, right, we have to value ourselves to feel confident enough to do so, would you say?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's days when it's hard to speak our truth, and when we really go deep and go within and find our own unique essence. I feel like that's when we're not comparing, that's when we find our own worth in us. Oh yeah.
Yeah. And to learn to not, especially for our younger generations, to not bring that worth in from outside, right? I mean, how powerful to think of a almost 7-year-old knowing their worth.
Yeah, very powerful, very powerful. And for her to, yeah, not just be impressionable, and really take her presence and be a leader, and be a leader. I see that in her. She's a leader.
I think that you're probably reflecting the leadership skills to her, Ivy. Just from
Thank
talking
you.
to you here today, I can see that within you. And I love your vulnerability around, teaching your daughter, and just being here today as you're openly admitted, that you're still struggle with your own self-worth. And that's so true. And I think a lot of people will really take that to heart and be able to understand and relate to that. So much of the time we hear people talking about, own your worth, own your worth, own your worth. But the truth is we all suffer at some point imposter syndrome, right? Or lacking in worth. And
Hmm.
I know that one time, I remember a time, it hasn't been that long, it was a few years ago, but just lying in my bed, sobbing, feeling like I didn't have value because I didn't feel seen by others.
Hmm.
And when I finally realized that it was okay, because as long as I saw me and valued myself, then others would see that within me. And it's such a big aha moment, right? It's like that, oh, I can give myself approval. I can say I'm worthy. I don't
Right.
need necessarily this person or that person to do it. And that was the beginning step for me, was understanding that I could value myself and didn't
Hmm.
have to wait for someone else to. And this was some years back. Is there something that happened for you, or is there something that you could share where you had that aha epiphany moment of your own self worth?
Actually, yes. I feel like a lot of times I have looked externally for approval or advice, or I can't make up my mind. Um, and I often look at my husband for that value or that worth. And I'll never fully get what I want by asking him what he thinks. That's his, interpretation of me. And it's funny because my chapter in this book is about me getting this really amazing, nice electric car that my husband ordered, and I did not feel worthy to get it. I actually was like, maybe we shouldn't get it. And then it was late coming in, and I was like, I'm okay with that. Like I wasn't ready to have this, to me, luxury item.
To receive it.
Yeah, I had this rejection around it. And so it was
Hmm.
like, what's his worth and what's my worth? He felt like he was worthy and I was worthy. But that also really also became the catalyst um, for this book when the whole thing came up. And yeah, it's just that inner reflection, that outer reflection. And I finally got to this point where I was like, I do deserve this and I am worthy. And yes, like I can drive around in this amazing car and feel like it's mine and feel like the work that I do as a teacher and a coach can also pay for that. Like the value of the work I do and what that equivalates and things that I want. And does not always have to be material, but it was just that, just with the story, it just was a really clear reflection to me that I do deserve this. It's okay. It's okay to receive. It's okay to have that. So
And
yeah.
when you came to that conclusion and you realized that you deserved it, did it show up? Because I know you said it was late. Was it like, oh, and then it was there?
It was literally, I got off of a phone call with a client who just signed up with me, a new client. And 5 minutes later, I got the phone call that the car was available. And I was like, yes, I'm ready. I'm ready to receive this. I'm ready, Yeah.
It's that miraculous connection between owning our self-worth and receiving, right? I love that you bring that up, and it's so true, because when we talk about so much about giving and giving and giving is so important, right? But in order to give, we have to be able to allow ourselves to receive, or what are we giving from?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's important. And I actually feel like I've gotten into a place lately where I've been giving more than receiving, because it just feels really good to give. And the work that I'm stepping into, like I just can't stop working because it doesn't feel like work. I love it. But I've
Mhm.
been feeling empty. And it's like, yes, I need to also learn to receive and know that I can have nice things. Like that's okay.
Yes, yes, right? Hell yes to
Yes,
receiving, hell yes.
totally.
We love it. We love it.
Yeah. So I invite anybody that feels like they might not be worthy or feel like, oh, it's bad that I can have this luxury item or this thing that they've always wanted. Like it's if you want that, that's okay. It's not bad to possess things that are in alignment with who you are. Like I have an electric car. I live an eco lifestyle. I'm light on my carbon footprint. It reflects who I am. It's in alignment. And it
Yes.
feels really good to drive a nice car. So yeah.
And you're worth it.
Yes. And I'm worth it 100%.
100%. I love it. 100% worth it, Ivy. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for just our conversation over tea and worthiness, and sharing a little bit about your life and how worthiness has played its role throughout your life and to this point right now. And I'm just so happy to be here and get to know you. And I cannot wait to read your chapter in Know Your Worth Goddess with the Everyday Goddess Revolution. So
Thank
thank
you
you
so
so
much.
much. Thank you so much, Ivy Glass and Hillary Sepulveda Brown with the Everyday Goddess Revolution. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.